Hey guys, it's your humble host, or Kayla if you prefer. So I'm back with another video. I literally was working on an image while I was watching this particularly long documentary on a very particular YouTuber. Now, let me point out, I'm not a fan of this YouTuber. I think they're a total screwball. But there was a segment that really caught my attention, and because the YouTuber who is doing said documentary is very big, I really feel like I really need to step in and say something here. So let me explain. So for those of you who are not familiar with TRO or The Right Opinion, he's a commentator. I don't want to label his channel, but he sticks his fingers in a myriad of topics, communities, and what have you. I've watched quite a number of his videos. I've been subbed to him for a year or so. I forgot how I found him. Anyway, I usually tend to enjoy his work. And the documentary that he's been working on and presented is one on the controversial YouTuber Blaire White. I've talked about Blaire White on my channel. You guys already know my feelings on the individual. Anyway, for those of you who've been following the Save James situation ever since 2018, possibly a little bit sooner than that, because I didn't come on that case until 2018, there has been a small update. I'll get to that at the end. However, for anyone who's been following my particular coverage, Blaire White did come up, and this is before my Twitter account got nuked. So there was a little bit because Blaire tried to jump in the spotlight and give commentary on that situation. Actually, a lot of big YouTubers were, and there were some that refused to do it because Christianity and the talk of God was involved. I literally had one or two big YouTubers tell me, oh, well, it's some Jesus get rich quick scheme. And it's like, you're an idiot. You're a flat out idiot because you haven't looked at anything. Anyway, any talk of God and people freaking run. Certain people do. So my point is, there's a segment in this documentary, and we're going to go over it. The section I want to cover is about like 8 to 10 minutes long. I'm going to try to be short and quick and sweet because I go back to work tomorrow and there's something else I need to get done. But I wanted to respond to it because this was a very big thing. When I started to cover this case and I saw the court documents, I've personally gone to the court hearing of October 2019. I have personally met the boys. I have met Jeff. I have met Gwen. I've met some of their close friends / supporters. So, with that being said, there was a big segment that came out by a particular YouTuber, and you'll see as this comes up, by Timba Toast, who went over a particular evaluation that was done on Jeff Younger. The custody evaluator in question is named Blake Mitchell, the very same custody evaluator that was involved in the Sophie case. This evaluator's evaluation, and I'm going to cover this more as we go through the segment, was thrown out by the then over the case Judge Kim Cooks of 255th Court, Family Court, Dallas, Texas. So, the fact that, because one of the things that TRO, That Right Opinion, accuses Blaire of, and like I said, I'm no fan of Blaire, accuses Blaire of, is not doing their due diligence and getting all the information and misrepresenting things. TRO really screws up here, and I really need to correct this because he has such a large audience. There's still a lot of bullshit being pushed, and we're going to respond to it because Timba Toast kind of came into the spotlight and then kind of disappeared because he was responding to another YouTuber who not only took down his video, but backed down and didn't do any research or respond in kind, and it was very frustrating because the fact that this is still being pushed and peddled tells me that TRO did the same thing that he accuses Blaire of. If you had done your due diligence, you would have found a particular people's channels, including mine, Jeff Morgan's, and I want to say one other person. We have the court documents. I still have all the notes from that hearing, by the way. So without further ado, let's get into this. And this is just, I wanted to leave this alone. I really did. But oh dear Lord, this was such a pet peeve of mine.
The child became the center of a political tug-of-war after the divorced parents disputed their gender. The father in this family claimed that the mother was forcefully transitioning one of their children against their will, setting up a page and fundraiser to fight the custody battle after a jury ruled against him. This caught wind in the media and online conservative circles, causing the issue to become quickly politicized as well, with one allegedly highly incriminating clip making the rounds, in which the child claims the mother told them that they were a girl.
You're a boy, right?
No. I'm a girl.
Who told you you're a girl?
Mommy.
Blaire decides to weigh in on this matter. After all, her personal investments run deep, and she delivers a decisive verdict on the clip in question.
So let me touch upon that clip, because for those of you who don't know, including TRO, had he done his due diligence and actually dug, you would have discovered that this entire thing that Anne was doing to James started right after their divorce. I have images. These are particular images, and I wish you had dug deeper, because you would have at least, I'm not a big power player in this case, but you would have at least found my freaking channel, dude. You would have found Jeff Morgan's channel. And I wish you would have reached out, and I understand this is kind of a side rail, but it's so important because you have such a huge audience, and here's where you screw up majorly. And it's the same thing that you accuse Blaire of. You're pushing a bullshit narrative, which you get onto Blaire for. By the way, I'm not defending Blaire. I'm not a fan of Blaire by no means. I think they're a total screwball. But at the same time, it's hypocritical. Had you actually dug, you would have found a lot more than the bullshit you were getting ready to peddle.
So you guys, this video to me is, I don't even want to get emotional. It's so sad. I think first of all, children going through custody battles and, being weaponized by either party or both parties and just going through that is so sad. And adding in this transgender layer, but I have to be honest, a child saying, my mom told me I'm a girl, not cool. Now I've been looking into this story, and many people are saying that this child has been coached and is being forced into this, and
which James was and is, and it all started because he picked a costume from the movie Frozen. It was either a costume or McDonald's toy, but either way, oh yeah, no, it started with McDonald's toy, that's right, because he also wanted to play dress up with other things, and one of these things was Frozen. There's a lot of information, but anyway, it started with a flippin' McDonald's toy. Him picking a girl's toy at McDonald's. This is how Anne started this entire bullshit, and it was right after her and Jeff Younger divorced.
Just based on what I have seen, I have to agree with that. That is personally my opinion.
She then moves on to the regular narratives about the transgender community and the discussion about putting children on hormones at the age of 7 and the dangerous consequences it can have. The institutions who have supported this and pushed it through and caused a great threat to this child who is far too young to make such a decision for themselves.
I don't know. Sometimes I seriously lose faith that trans people will ever be accepted into society and integrated into society when just the insanity that comes out of the community is so constant.
I'm just gonna put my 2 cents. I'm gonna say one thing, that's it. It's all insane. None of it's normal. The medical complications that come from it, the fact that people think, oh, well, if I get these surgeries, or if I do this, I do that, I can live as the opposite sex. It's all delusional. It really is. I have no hatred towards these people. My heart actually breaks for these people. I've talked about my own struggle with certain things, and that my parents, thank God, did not let me destroy myself, and thank God I was not around, I was not younger when this stuff really started to spread. So yeah, it's all delusional. None of it's healthy.
I don't know, I just feel like we never have anything positive coming out of the community. I feel like it's always, if you don't date me, you're transphobic. Yes, 7-year-olds can decide to transition. Yes, male athletes who popped 2 estrogen pills should be able to compete against women and demolish them. When is the community going to step up and realize things are going too far and regain some credibility here? because it's not looking good. It really isn't. Honestly, the biggest thing for me, this is just like kind of different rant. The biggest thing for me is that the trans community seems to have no self-awareness of how they're viewed by the outside world. They literally have no clue. A lot of these people are so caught up in their own sort of discourse and people who agree with them that they don't realize how insane it sounds that a 7-year-old is having his gender changed legally, is going to appointments for puberty blockers.
Okay, so a few things, because that's another thing. Anne never had James's name changed legally by the courts. It may be changed now because, you know, I said I was going to wait till the end of the video. Screw it, I'm putting it here. For those of you who have not been keeping up with this case, Jeff lost pretty much all rights to the boys. He has to pay $600 if he wants to see them, supervised visits. Judge Brown is a complete wacko. Jeff is pro se. Jessica Janisic, Anne's lawyer, is completely psychotic, and they're allowing Anne to do whatever she wants, which, by the way, let me bring up this point. The court hearing back in October of 2019, the new evaluator, Dr. Benjamin Albritton. So, remember how I said Blake Mitchell's evaluation, the one that all the left people, including Timbaugh, Toast, and now TRO is like touting around as valid? So that was tossed out. That was legitimate a thing, and that's why Dr. Benjamin Albritton was brought in to do a new evaluation. However, this shows you how screwed up this entire situation is. Albritton used Blake Mitchell's evaluation that was tossed out and invalid by Judge Kim Cooks, no less, for the foundation of his evaluation, which was also an utter bullshit, and he let Anne do whatever she wanted because she was a pediatrician. This is a pediatrician, let me remind you folks, doing this to her son. Now, let's not also forget Jude, because Jude has been made to lie, confuse himself as to why his mom is doing this, and let me also put in that the boys are scared of Anne. The situation right now is kind of dire because Jeff has no communication with his boys. Lord only knows what the boys have been told about why Jeff suddenly disappeared or why they suddenly can't go to their dad's house anymore. So it's not a really good time right now. Jeff's lawyers have been throwing him underneath the bus, have done jack all for the situation, as you saw in the past couple of hearings, which you can find on my channel and in the playlist. So, yeah, I could go off on a tangent. Let's continue with this.
And they just think it's so bewildering that anyone could possibly, conceivably think, should we slow down just a little bit? No, transphobe. Like, it's just disgusting.
But here, Blaire was engendering much more trouble than any of the people that she seems so concerned about.
I'll say this, you know, in the off chance that the mother of James is viewing this video, I don't want to come across as I am attacking you. In fact, I would like to publicly reach out via this video if you watch it and say, let's have a conversation. I would love to talk to you. I am not some random internet troll. I am not some anonymous person on Twitter. I am not some hater. I'm a trans woman myself, and if anything, I've walked this path that your son and yourself may seem to think is the right path for him, and I'm actually willing to talk to both of you.
But it's okay, I guess. At least she's willing to have a discussion. Well,
so this clip is what thoroughly ticked me off because I watched that entire video and I can't find it now because there's another clip Troll's getting ready to play here in just a minute that added to this garbage fire. First off, during this time, Jeff Younger and Ann Georgelis had the court order not to talk to the media, any journalist or whatnot. That's why there was such a push to try to make me as an agent or paint me as some sort of journalist or media outlet, and that's why I started putting my videos, I'm not a journalist, I'm not media, even though the Daily Wire also labeled me as an independent journalist. Didn't name me by name, of course, but it's just like, I'm not a journalist, I'm just a YouTuber. Anyway, point is, that's why there was such a push, because Jeff could still talk to me. I could still put stuff out because I wasn't media. I never claimed to be media. I never claimed to be a journalist. So the fact that Blaire went around and did this and tried to give a platform to Anne after both Jeff and Anne were told to shut up, which Anne broke that gag order anyway. This next bit is what really set me through the roof.
well, Blaire, let's talk about it.
You know, it's so sad, but I hope to God that James lucks out in the sense that he grows up and truly is trans and also doesn't want a family, because those are the only two circumstances that would validate the choices being made for him right now.
So this bit, and I wish I can find the video because I downloaded the entire video and used OBS to clip what Blaire had said here. The end of the video, and between this little bit, there was a jump cut. Like, you could tell it was added on at the very last minute. So, but this is what kind of sent me through the roof, because Blaire goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I hope James lucks out as trans." And yes, there's more context to that, to where obviously they go, well, as long as James doesn't want a family, because that's one of the two things. But just that little bit, because Blaire is known for flip-flopping on stuff and not backing up really so much their stance, and they'll fold. So, and I've seen enough of Blaire White's content, because the anti-SJW community used to be like all ooey and gooey with this individual, and I actually love something that Wild Smile said on Twitter, and I don't have the tweet. It was said forever ago that Blaire White is creepy, and plucking feathers off of a chicken doesn't make the chicken a rooster, something along those lines. I'm like, you're my hero. So anyway, but yeah, that's... No, I was so PO'd about this damn video that Blaire put out, because I had agreed to everything of the original video of Blaire defending James, defending Jeff, and actually taking time to look at the context of the situation. Then you have the last bit of inviting Anne to come on, with James no less, which James has never been put in any of my videos, anyone else's videos, talking about the situation, as that was, like, highly contested against. And then to put in this last bit, I was sent through the effing roof, because it's like, you know what, you just destroyed any credibility you might have had. Not like Blaire's part of the case to begin with, but Blaire did jump on it, and these people annoy me.
Is if he both is really trans, to which he won't regret the medications, and that he doesn't want kids, because it already seems to be decided up for him right now that that's the case. So,
before it was circulated by a load of conservative outlets, creators, and even some on the liberal end of the spectrum, this whole
easy on me, that's what it was. And I've already explained the bit with Blake Mitchell, but I want you to watch, because some YouTubers try to jump to Anne's defense without having the full knowledge, and even bothering to look at the website. The website SaveJames.com that was up at the time had all the flippin' court documents, and in them you would have found that Blake Mitchell's report had been tossed out, and that Dr. Benjamin Albritton was brought on because Blake Mitchell's evaluation had been completely tossed in the garbage.
story was pretty comprehensively investigated by a creator called Timber on Toast, who...
No, it was not complete. He didn't investigate shit, and this is what kind of pissed me off, because I was almost tempted to respond to this. It was like a little bit after I had just come on, and I listened to Timba Toast video. I listened to Easy on Me's video. Timba, trash. Neither you or Timba TRO did any thorough research on this freaking subject.
Quashes most of the narratives put forward by those in favor of the father. You should go and watch that one after this, but he shows that the dad in this instance is by no means a helpless passenger losing his son, but someone
Bull. Because there's a lot more to it, to where they constantly had his places of employment subpoenaed, and because these were contracted to where he did certain things for them, they kicked him because, and every time Jeff got a new job, this also came up in the court hearing and other documents and things like that, every time Jeff got a new job, Anne and her lawyer, Jessica Janisic of Coons Filler, would go and subpoena this employer, all these new employers, and the employer's like, you're a security risk because that means we have to reveal our business plans and other stuff. You need to get out of here. We can't keep you. Oh, you do the same crap that Blaire does. And I was fine with everything else in this segment, and this particular piece, I'm like, you have no room to talk, because had you done thorough research, you would have found certain things. My goodness.
Who instigated a lot of trouble, which was practically rebuked by every medical professional who
So let me tell you something about medical professionals that are involved. So did you know Anne actually is a part of Children's Health Place, and Children's Health Place is doing studies on children with gender dysphoria. Do you know how much money there is? Do you know who is pushing the trans crap? Have you looked into this at all? Do you know why they're pushing this on children? Have you done any research, or do you have a bias? And I'm not trying to get upset. I've been with this case for about 2 to 3 years now, and it has been an emotional roller coaster because there is some, excuse my language, some fucked up shit that I didn't even know existed until I got introduced to this case with all of its court documents, all the bullshit. Oh, Tro, let me also tell you this. Did you know that Anne tried to, in a sense, Me Too Jeff Younger? Bet you don't, because you haven't looked at the court documents. Let me fill you in. So, she tried to say that Jeff beat her. Physically attacked her, and if you get convicted of domestic violence in a custody court case, you lose any right to contest for the custody of your children. You lose any right to your children. Anything, it goes out the window. So she has been trying to financially cripple Jeff for years, and that's why they went after, they kept trying to go after the GoFundMe. They kept trying to go after the Gifts and Go. So anyway, going back to this little thing that Anne tried to do to Jeff, is there was a truck. Jeff was driving a truck at the time, and there was a witness in this truck. I can get you the freaking court documents for this crap because Jeff was acquitted because there was a witness in the truck unbeknownst to Anne. So again, Anne has tried every which way to cripple Jeff, and right now things look pretty damn dark because Anne is a pediatrician, so she clearly knows what she's doing. Did you know that Anne's business is failing right now? Last I heard, she's lost several patients who were exposed to this, who found out what Anne has been doing and freaking fled. Parents don't want their kids brainwashed, dude. Again, I literally was working on an art piece when I came across this bit. It's like, do I keep my mouth shut or do I actually say something? Because of the nature of the case now, because what is going on now, I really feel like I need to counterpoint this misinformation.
Reported the contrary perspective.
Dr. Johnson receives a letter from the child's father in which he makes allegations about the child's mother. This letter is ignored by Dr. Johnson, who sees the child and diagnoses them with gender identity disorder. Following the diagnosis, the medical center tries to contact the father to keep him involved in the process. He delays scheduling an interview with them, saying that he is gathering information he wants to present to the head doctor. The records show that he never followed up on scheduling that interview. The therapist confirms the diagnosis of gender dysphoria, which was made by Dr. Johnson.
Genesis Clinic, as I said in the comments, because I left a comment, and I'm going to read the comment real quick, scroll down here. I am one of the Save James admins for the page. That little bit was added on last minute and thoroughly ticked me off. This talks about the Blaire White video. Blaire destroyed an argument that was made in the video defending James, who very much wants to be a boy. I have also personally met the boys, as you guys have seen, photos and videos. As I flew out to Texas of October 2019, the medical evaluation I meant to do the custody. I don't know why I put medical. That Timbo Toast read done by custody evaluator Blake Mitchell was tossed out by then Judge over the case Kim Cooks of 255th Dallas, Texas court. And then I put a timestamp 132:28. I will say some of your research on that case is lacking, and this is where I feel you begin to make the same mistakes as Blaire. I'm no fan of Blaire's, but my goodness, a thorough read of court documents would have told you that Blake Mitchell's evaluation was biased and was so bad that Judge Kim Cooks tossed it out, proving it to be in its entirety invalid. Also, let's point out how it was revealed in court that James himself liked the name Starfire, a superhero. It was by no means trying to be a girl tro. And Georgelis already had James fast-tracked to a gender clinic and getting recommendations from a Rebecca Orr with no knowledge of the ramifications of hormone blockers, which Logan O'Donnell did a good job of backing her stupid butt into a corner because she would give out recommendation letters. She also believed that no counseling should have been involved before recommending puberty blockers or cross-sex hormones. She didn't know the ramifications of any of this. And you can actually see that in the notes, too. I need to put those back up. Did you actually look around and do a thorough dig for this part or just use Timbo to his video? I'm legit asking you because this was so far from what actually exposed in court 2019 by Anne herself and Jeff's at the time lawyer Logan O'Donnell. Which, let me remind you guys, Jeff is pro se right now. So, but anyway, so Jeff was ignoring a lot of stuff because it was being pushed because they weren't actually giving James a chance to express himself. I'll give an example. Susan Fletcher, right now, who's going after Jeff in court for defamation and other bullshit. She refused to see James as James and only would see James as Luna, and then refused to see James when Jeff had James because Jeff would allow James to dress as he wanted a boy. So again, TRO, this part is really crucial, and I just could not keep my mouth shut. And had you done a thorough deep dive, which I know you were focused more on Blaire, whatever, I'm not defending Blaire, but at the same time, goodness, dude, like, this is where you really fucked up. And I'm really trying not to swear in my video, but oh my lord, this set me over the edge.
That it would be better for the child's psychological well-being to socially affirm them as Luna, which is a girl's name that the child has chosen for themselves.
Oh, let me also put in the other sneaky shit that Anne has done. So, when the order by Judge Kim Cooks of Jeff and Anne having 50-50 conservatorship, and if you know what that is, TRO, that means that both parents have a say in medical care, extracurricular activities, where the child lives, anything that the child's assets that they garner before their age of 18, that sort of thing. Jeff and Anne had 50-50% conservatorship. And Anne kept trying to go behind Jeff's back and register James as Luna. Did you know that the boys go to jiu-jitsu, or did, and went as themselves and had fun, and killed that because James's own jiu-jitsu instructor saw the bullshit and told James, don't let your mom put makeup on you? Oh, is that something else that you didn't know either? That during FaceTime calls, Anne would put makeup on James, make him look like a drag queen, because she knew it'd get to Jeff. Do you know any of this, dude? Like, ugh.
The therapist advises scheduling another appointment when the child is 8 or 9 to discuss whether or not hormone blockers are an appropriate measure to take.
So again, this Rebecca Orr was exposed to having James fast-tracked for the Genesis Clinic. And this is why, and the boys are older, and I pray to God that the boys find some way to fight back against this, because they're at that point where puberty blockers would be started during the first and second tenor stages, around there. So at this point, the boys would be possibly 10, 11. So, yeah, no, Rebecca Orr had already recommended James for the Genesis Clinic for puberty blockers. And Rebecca Orr is a freaking quack. Did you know, if you actually, take the time to research and watch live streams and stuff on this, that when everything got exposed, this was before the trial of October 2019, by the way, is that Rebecca Orr, when her website got dug into by me and another YouTuber who I was talking with at the time, Tran Anime, like the counseling's not required, I'll just give recommendation letters, blah, 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 blah. Rebecca Orr went and for a time took down her Facebook page and also flushed out a lot of crap that was exposed by stream from her website. Food for thought, dude. I just, right now, because of the state of the case, this is why I'm doing this video. If the case was in a better state of mind, I really wouldn't care, but because of the update I was given, and there isn't a lot of chatter because there's not a lot of movement, right now, because things take time. So this is why I'm doing this video.
By this time, it transpires that the child's father has contacted Dr. Johnson, Child Protective Services, Genesis Clinic, and the follow-up psychologist, making allegations to all of them that the mother is abusing the child.
Because she is. She abuses Jude and James psychologically, mentally, because what she's doing to James is a form of psychological abuse and mental abuse. Jude, too, and I also consider it a form of sexual abuse.
States that he suspects the mother is suffering from Munchausen by proxy.
Oh, something else, Troll, because this is... Had you guys looked at the dossier, the 333-page dossier that was on the website, and I can put some of the stuff back up? I don't have an issue. That there was transcripts in there of how, and I covered this in one of my streams as well, how Anne, and I don't know if she's gotten it taken care of because she was never made by the court, Judge Kim Cooks, to produce evidence that everything was okay, or had she gotten it taken care of. Did you know she had a brain tumor that was causing her to lactate, leak breast milk at the age of 50 because of the part of the brain that it was pushing up against, the pituitary gland? Did you know that? Did you know that in the dossier, this is also in the, I believe in one of the transcripts I was listening there, she has a past history of seeing dead hands all over people, ringing in ears, flashing lights, and has mental problems that was never addressed, nor was she ever meant or forced to address them by the court. Do you know any of this, or we're just pushing the same bullshit stuff that you accuse Blaire of pushing? Because it's the popular narrative. Like, I don't understand how you fucked up so bad on this, because the information is out there. Like, I don't...
The very same mental illness proposed by Dr. Michelle Cretella, the lady quoted in all those articles I read about this case. None of the professionals who received the father's letters find his allegations to be credible.
Because they're all having an agenda to push. Again, I never responded to Timba's video because it was so inaccurate, and because stuff was moving fast at that time that I didn't necessarily have the time to. Oh my god.
This information can also be found in court documents published around that time if you're fun enough to read them. And I'm not saying this necessarily makes the mother a...
Are you just pulling out particular ones that supposedly fit your narrative, or are you going to have all of them on file, on hand? I will say, because I had a few supporters of Anne Georgelas come out and poke at me on Twitter, a very particular, also a trans activist. I don't even remember the name. It's not even worth remembering the name. But I had people poking at me with 6 different documents, and it's like, buddy, there are far more court documents than that, than just the 6 that you decided to cherry pick. I have all of them, or I had all of them. My collection goes up to August of 2020, because everything else after that became sealed. So I have some of the newer stuff here and there, but that's about it. But as I said, I have all the videos, which are still floating around, besides the Mommy Told Me I Was a Girl video. There's more floating around, Tro, and again, this is where you fucked up royally, because you had everything, I believe, decent up to a point. Again, I'm not a fan of Blaire, I can't state that enough, but here's where you fucked up big, and any accusations you had against Blaire went so I think you have a bias for the LGBT community, and it very much shows. I don't hate them, but very delusioned. Very much delusioned, and if you actually take time to look into that industry and who's pushing it and why and what's going on, because yes, pedophilia is attached, you have dark money involved, you do have experiments being run on children, and that's why you have things like the gingerbread person or the gender unicorn. Again, if you actually take the time to dig thoroughly into that, put your bias aside, and actually look at what that real world actually entails, you would find a lot of dark shit, a lot of messed up shit.
Saying to all that this whole hubbub even has a bearing on the child's identity, which has now probably been completely disrupted by political figures sticking their nose in far too deep to a case they have no knowledge of.
So let me touch upon the political figures, because let's discuss particularly Governor Abbott, okay? So what he did was mainly for show. He's bought out by the freaking trans lobbyists that came out. The bills, the 425 Save James bills, or that were inspired by Save James. You have HB, I'm trying to remember all of them now. I think it was 68, 1399. I talked about them a little bit on my channel. It's been a while, but yeah, those were purposely dragged to their death. So political figures were just doing a show stunt, for the most part. And even though they promised to do something about it, they all got bought up by the trans lobbyists. Fascinating.
Interfering with a court case which has been deliberated and heard out by a jury. However, once again, a preconceived narrative was pushed as truth without question. I mean, hell,
No, okay, so let me stop you right there, son. Because when I first started to hear about this particular case, I thought it was clickbait, because the right at that time, because I was a part of the anti-shade community, I'm very small, obviously, from my numbers, and my channel's been choked to death due to my involvement with certain stuff. Anyway, so when I first heard about this case, Save James, I thought it was fake, because I had come across quite a bit of clickbait stuff at that time that was either misconstrued, blown out of proportion, and so I'm going like, okay, this has got to be something clickbaity, there's no effing way this shit is happening. So I read the article, I followed the breadcrumbs, as it were, which led me to the Save James website. And I've told this story before, how I've gotten involved. And there's a bunch of court documents, and I started to read through these going, holy shit, this is real. And I started to cover the blog that was coming out, because you had more presentation of court documents. This is when I first got my hands on the 333-page dossier, along with the other stuff. And that's how I met Gwen. I met her over Twitter, and then Jeff reached out to me, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And I started to learn how real and how dark this stuff was. So it was not a preconceived narrative being pushed without question, because let me clue you in, I try to get big YouTubers involved, and you have one who, as far as I know, his credibility has not been stained as of yet. Omegon was covering this case, and he thought it was fake at first until he reached out to some of his people in Texas, because he talks about that in his early coverage of Save James. So, and his people verify that, yes, this is happening, this is what's going on. And then I try to get some other big YouTubers involved, and because God was mentioned, they thought it was a Jesus Quick Rich scheme, and didn't even bother to look into it because Christianity and Jesus was involved. So it wasn't that a bunch of people believed it and had this preconceived narrative without questioning anything, because some of the people, it took a lot of convincing to go, no, this is actually happening. This is what I went and discovered, even more so when I went down to Texas in October of 2019. Preconceived narrative, my ass, dude. Like, no, it was hard to get this story in the faces of many people, because many people thought there's no way in hell this is happening, and especially in Texas.
The governor of Texas basically complained that his own judicial system wasn't working well enough.
I love you. Please leave a comment. I want to know everyone's thoughts. Please share this video as well. I feel like this is extremely important.
Blaire was a part of that, and she of course doesn't have the mainstream draw of any of the figures who took to Twitter to make known their outrage, but it was once more wrapped in those points of view that tried to make her look like this disillusioned observer and frustrated moderate that was becoming more and more tiresome by the upload.
And honestly, even wearing what they want, if I'm being completely honest, I don't have an issue with that at all. But the mother has been going to consultations for puberty blockers, is quote, not ruling it out, and it seems like this boy's fate is already decided. You know, I do believe 7-year-olds can experience gender dysphoria. I was one of them, but no 7-year-old is prepared mentally, emotionally, anything.
So let me just clarify something, because I said this before. There's no such thing as trans kids. When you have a kid who starts spouting that they're non-binary or whatever, they have been coerced, indoctrinated, brainwashed into something they have no knowledge of, nothing that they can really understand or begin to wrap their small minds around. So there is, again, no such thing as trans kids, and it has been shown and proven, because, like, let's bring up Drag Queen Story Hour, because that was also mentioned a little bit early in the video. That has also been used to teach children that men can have periods, that women can have penises, which is, it's again, it's all delusional. It really is, and it's not backed by basic biology. They now want to change science to fit this narrative, and they've been trying to do that for a very long time. And I've talked about all this on my channel multiple times, and this is no exception. This is, again, just me sounding like a broken record, but oh my gosh, I could not keep my mouth shut, especially with the way that the case is right now.
to make the decision to go on puberty blockers and then hormones and then live as a woman at 7.
You also see in the court notes that there is no concrete plan for the child to go on hormone blockers.
You weren't there in the hearing on October 2019, TRO, and I cannot believe you're using an outdated video. Timba Toast, this came out 2018, early 2019. Oh, there we go. Yeah, 2019. This is 2 months. 2 months before the court hearing. So the fact that you have not bothered to look into anything else because this is outdated. James was fast-tracked for Genesis Clinic, as recommended by Rebecca Orr, with a letter which came out in court, which, oh, why didn't you dig more thoroughly into this?
Because the child is 6 years old. It's stated that when they are 8 or 9, they will have another consultation where they will seek advice on whether or not hormone blockers are the correct course of action.
And this is something that Jeff was fighting against because he knew what Anne wanted to do. Anne had done a lot of stuff behind his back and is still doing so, and even more so because he's been completely cut off. If you guys go and watch the hearings that I have on my channel, and I know this video is really long, I apologize, but there is so much more I can go over. It would take a very long time. Please go through the playlist. But it just, this is, so right now you're peddling a push narrative that Jeff Younger is the one abusing his sons, that he's the one going against all these medical experts when all these medical experts have been proven to have a damn agenda and get paid for doing this shit. It just, golly, man.
Back when she was edgier than this and controversial, you could at least say it was pretty clear where she would stand. But here it just felt like a bit of a ruse. Blaire constructs a fair few of her videos like this, especially when they're short and quite loosely formulated. She starts with a root.
Okay, so we're gonna stop it here because this video has gone on long enough, and I'm not wanting to focus more on the freaking bullshit with Blaire. Anyway, but TRO does have one point here which I agree with. Ruse. So Blaire did make it seem like they were on Jeff's side, that they were for James, that they took a thorough look into what was really going on, only to come out with those freaking disgusting bits at the end of the same video. So what I've noticed, and I'm going to say one thing about Blaire, and then I'm going to get back to the situation. One thing I've noticed about Blaire that I can actually agree with is Blaire likes to jump into the spotlight, and they're very much, people are calling it fake video of alcohol being splashed in their face with the Trump hat. That was also put under a heavy scrutiny simply because alcohol being splashed in your face, that is a form of chemical in your eyes. And so, anyway, so I do agree with TRO of Blaire pulling a ruse here, because Blaire jumped into a lot of weird channels talking about the case, even though Blaire didn't have all the knowledge of the case. It wasn't even part of it, and those bits that everybody wanted to ignore. Getting back to the case itself. So, as I said, and I know this video is almost an hour, it's like 42 minutes, and it's gonna be annoying to edit. With the details of the case, because I know certain information is not available anymore due to stuff being sealed. There hasn't been too many updates on the page because, again, there hasn't been a lot of movement. But James and Jude have been abused by Anne on multiple levels, if not, James particularly, sexually. Because of what she's been trying to do with James. And if you guys even looked into the name Luna, because this was talked about before, Luna is from a book about a sister endorsing her brother's delusion where he feels like he can be himself at night. And during the day he has to live this lie, and the name is from a book. Anne picked it from this stupid book, which we've gone over before in stream, and yes, it was about 2 to 3 years ago. But again, if the case was in a good state of mind right now, and if Jeff had not lost his rights, I would have kind of let this slide, because it's like, okay, this is just whatever. But because of the state of things right now, Like, you can't go and correct every single video or combat every single video. Like, no, that would have been me quite a few years ago, but a lot of these videos that came out, or tweets or other things that came out in support of what Anna's been doing to James and Jude, I would have tried to combat all of it, but no, that's not me anymore. But this particular one, holy crap, the fact that not only outdated information was pushed by Timba Toast, which I don't really watch the YouTuber. As far as I know, he's an extreme leftist atheist from what I saw of his channel, but this was a few years ago. I don't care for the dude. And it's being perpetuated and parroted by TRO, who gives a recommendation for this outdated, misinformed video. Because like I said, the information that came out on this case, I thought at that time was fake. I thought all of this was fake. I'm like, there's no way in hell this is happening. No. For those of you who've been following my channel, particularly for this case, for the past 2 to 3 years, this is real. This is happening. There's 2 boys' lives at stake. There's been multiple studies, and one of the articles that TRO decided to glean by was done by none other than Walt Hare. If you know who that is, and if you don't, I really highly recommend you look that up. Walt Hare lived as a woman for 7 to 8 years because he transitioned and then he detransitioned, and he talked about his journey. And if you guys actually take the time, and I'm not talking about my audience, I'm talking about the people who find this video, if you guys actually take the time to look into the detransitioner movement led by Kira Bell, you will find a lot of people will say that their deeper psychological issues were not addressed, that they were pushed into cross-sex hormone surgery, and then when new problems arose from this, they were just kind of left on their own because the medical industry, Big Pharma, and all these other people pushing an agenda got what they wanted. And it's like, okay, you're done. We're done with you. Like, look into these things. I don't hate TRO. Like I said, I've been subbed to him for quite a while now. And I haven't seen his content in my feed for quite some time, but I used to watch him quite a bit. He had some interesting takes. I'm like, okay, this seems like a reasonable fellow. But this is what really kind of upset me. No, I'm not triggered. Because I know the state of things right now with the case, and I'm not gonna lie, it's bad, it's dark. As I said before, Jeff went pro se because all the lawyers he's had just fumbled the ball, and I think they did so on purpose. As you saw in the last hearings, the James S. Bell that we thought was good because of how he took on Chase Bank. He made a swap last minute, sending his 2 co-counselors who really did fuck all. Didn't even challenge Janicek. I think the only, valid thing I saw during the last one was David, I think, Hashing, who is a previous judge himself, was making Judge Brown uncomfortable, which I still don't know the correlation of that, but you can tell she was not happy that he was there. If you look at the hearings, and this is why they didn't want them recorded either, well, too freaking bad, you would see also how freaking chummy that Fletcher was with the judge. Janicek was calling the judge by her first name, which in court is a big freaking no-no. So that should give you red flags and alarms that these guys are buddy-buddy with each other. I don't know how many times we've talked about it on this channel, how these people are interlocked in a spider web with each other. They're friends with each other. We've exposed Janicek was friends with Judge Kim Cooks. And now they have all their friends. That's another shit locked down. Like, do you guys... My audience will hopefully remember some of this stuff. If not, this is kind of a refresher. But for those of you who are just found this video, because as I said, I could not keep quiet because of the state of things. What information, there's a whole playlist. Go look at Jeff Morgan. There's someone else who, that's Eric Carroll from Dad Talks. Jeff has done a lot of interviews, and this isn't Jeff going out of his way to start trouble. This isn't Jeff going, oh, well, I'm just gonna do this because screw my child. No, this is Jeff trying to protect the manhood of both of his sons because Anne has mental problems that have never been addressed. A lot of her clients found out what she was doing and freaking fled her clinic. So Anne and Janicek had been trying to go after the fundraiser sites because they thought it was assets for the children. It's not. It's always been money for Jeff to take care of legal expenses and other things, as well as take care of his stuff with the boys. Like, I don't know how many times I have to bring up those stupid FaceTime calls, like, not stupid, but had I recorded those, and let me refresh you, TRO, if you ever do find this video, because I personally met the boys, I stayed with Jeff and Gwen, I saw how the boys operated around Jeff, when the cameras went rolling, and even like, because I have natural photos and videos, so let me clarify. So when I went over to Texas, there's a couple things I observed, TRO. First one, FaceTime calls. So as I've already mentioned, Anne would put makeup on James because she knew this would get to Jeff. The FaceTime call that I first witnessed between Jeff, James, and Jude, they were all happy. They talked about sumo wrestling. Jeff was gone from the table 10 to 15 minutes because we had went out to eat. And one of our past admins, who is now deceased, Alan Eccles, we were sitting there having a meal. And the boys were overly excited to see their dad. And Jeff rotates the camera around so they could see all of us and say hi. So again, 10 to 15 minutes, Jeff comes back down and says the call ended because Anne entered the room. Let me also point out about the FaceTime call between Jeff and James. So anybody who does video call usually has the camera out to here, a comfortable level, and you can see the background, like you can see mine now. Anne would make James have the FaceTime call up to here so you couldn't see the other shit that was in his room. Did you know that Anne was taking James to LGBT parades, which, by the way, have a bunch of kink shit and freaking people just exposing themselves? Like, have you actually looked into the freaking LGBTQ pride parades? They're fucking disgusting. And then she had a bunch of transgender propaganda. This is nothing that James wanted in his room, but he was forced to do this otherwise because Anne would be sit there hovering over him like a damn hawk. So let's get to the FaceTime with Anne between James and Jude when James and Jude were over at Jeff's, okay? So I had crept up the stairs and I started to listen because we had gone to a Greek festival earlier that day, and Anne asked the boys what they had to eat, and James was very quiet. His time with Anne didn't even last 30 seconds. They were using an iPhone 6S. Used to be a wireless specialist at the time, so I identified the phone right away. And James had shoved the phone into June's hand because he was done talking. Not even a minute, dude. Not even a freaking minute. And I hear Anne say, loud and clear, oh, it's okay if you don't want to talk to me, because Jude was quiet. She treats Jude like shit. Jude has said that he is scared of Anne. And the phone call drops. They hang up. They want nothing to do with Anne at all. Let's go to something else, because I have natural photos and videos, and the boys clearly were not aware that I was taking videos and photos where James starts roughhousing with Jeff, and this is something that Anne has been highly against, the jiu-jitsu and them practicing boxing and other stuff. So James started to do this naturally. He started to do these weird foot techniques that you practice in martial arts. Let me also remind you and remind my audience, the very first time I met James, I didn't call him by name. I'm like, hey, kiddo, what's your name? Sticks out his hand. I'm James. Yeah, James. What kid does that? Like, so I could go on. I have a video of James writing his name multiple times on an iPad. So had you done your thorough research, you would have seen how much bullshit was in Timbuktu's video. And again, because it's so hypocritical, and this is huge. This is still going on. You accuse Blaire of not doing due diligence and deep research. You did not do fuck all with this at all. You would have come across my channel. You would have come across Jeff Morgan's. You would have come across Dave Carroll's of Dad Talks. because I saw you reference a bunch of articles. Did you just do a Google research and freaking post screenshots of shit? Did you even read any of it? Again, I know I sound triggered, but I've been with this stuff for 2 to 3 years, and it's fucked up. This is what's happening to our children all over, but you have people who come out who try to defend this shit, saying, oh, well, this is normal, this is, Anna's just supporting her quote-unquote daughter, which doesn't fucking exist, by the way. Luna does not exist. James does not want to be Luna. Just the amount of bullshit I have seen Jeff and Gwen and the boys go through because of this crap, and the people who are very close to the situation, who actually live in Texas, who, like I said, I am somewhat close, but because I'm not physically there. So, anyway, this video has gone on long enough, almost an hour. I could not keep quiet about it, simply because of the nature and the state of things, and I'm going to go back to the image I was working on, but please, go look at the playlist, go watch the interviews. I have to figure out, about the documents, because I have them still, and so, anyway, for those of you who want the court notes, I have them. I will personally re-upload them and give you guys a link for a copy if you guys want to see them, because I was there the 34 days of courts, and what came out was disgusting. And the creepy ass videos, there's just a lot that was exposed in court because of the way that family court is, by the way. TRO, if you want to look into that, especially here in the US, it's a freaking nightmare. Okay? And the TRO trans stuff, like, saying is follow the money. And that is very true of family court. And now you have the transgender stuff thrown into there, which you have Big Pharma and other freaking wackos involved. So this is where you royally fucked up. And this case is still going. By the way, it's still very much a thing, still very much existent. Please check out the page. Check out the playlist. All you have to do also is type in Save James or Jeff Younger into Google search bar, and you get a plethora of interviews too. So this is happening. This is real. This is a nightmare. This is not healthy. There's no such thing as trans kids. Kids who start spouting that shit have been indoctrinated, brainwashed. Oh, and let me also point this out. TRO, anybody else who wants to listen? They're doing this behind parents' back. Did you know some schools now are starting to give hormones or helping children get hormones behind their parents' back? They're secretly using different names in the classroom, and if you don't think that's a big deal, you're dead fucking wrong, because when you have the school starting to hide shit from the parents, there's an agenda being pushed and they don't want to expose. Do thorough research about what is happening with our school systems here in America, TRO, because it's freaking scary. A lot of parents are now calling for homeschooling. You have people who are trying to get homeschooling barred or limited because they don't want parents having a say over what their children is taught. And you can throw a critical race theory in there if you want to, but there's so much more going on, and you have the freaking rose-colored blinders on that is disgusting. Anyway, I'm done. Please check out what I'm saying if you guys actually want to take the time and get a thorough read as to what's really been going on. And I will say, because there's been so much that even I don't have all the details, because it's been going on for 7 to 8 freaking years. Yeah, this is a 7 to 8 year ordeal, and it just freaking blew up 2018. And that was thanks to the Scots, who made the website, got all the court documents that were available at the time, and they just went poof, because Anne wanted to keep the story from ever coming to the light. And you had a bunch of idiots jump on it saying, oh, the Jeff, even Glenn Beck. One more thing I will call out. Glenn Beck, that piece of shit, I don't care who he is. People said he was a conservative. No. He used Blake Mitchell's report as well. And he only did this because at the time he tried to get an interview with Jeff Younger. Jeff did not have the time because of the shit going on at the time. So Glenn got all pissy and started to tout Jeff as a child abuser. So fuck him. Fuck the people pushing this pre-consumed narrative that Jeff has been abusing the boys without doing any due diligence research whatsoever. And I will say that other articles from both sides that have come out, minus 1 or 2, because LifeSite News was very close in on the situation due to Madeline Jacobs. LifeSite News has been banned off of Twitter, YouTube. They are on Gab. They also got kicked off of Facebook. But for those of you who have watched Omegon and his coverage of Save James, he actually used LifeSite News a couple of times for his videos. And those articles were written by Madeline Jacobs. So you guys have heard some of those articles before if you've watched Omegon's coverage of this. Anyway, I gotta end it here because I gotta edit this and I gotta get back to what I was originally doing, because that's also kind of important. But you guys have a good one. Please do the research for yourselves and TRO. Hypocrite much. I'll see you guys.